It's been just over 150 days since Anheuser-Busch InBev took over control of the operations of what a company that used to be called SABMiller, not only on this continent but globally as well. They've also sold off a whole bunch of brands that were acquired over the last couple of decades. This is the Moneymakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight I'm joined by Ricardo Tadeu, who is the Zone President of Africa at AB InBev and SAB, because SAB as a company still exists, to discuss the African beer market and also talking about SABMiller's operations. 150 days and counting. Did you find what you expected to find when you arrived in Joburg?
Yes, actually, I'm very excited to be here. I've been in the business for 20 years. I was born in Brazil. Basically, I have lived and worked in Latin America countries only. So coming to Africa, it's like more or less of a magical thing. It has this different and this challenging thing. We are also aware that, this is not just a regular combination. It's something that we know that it's something very important, that our responsibility
This is a merger
is
of the two biggest beer companies in the world. Right. If you go back 20 years, there were probably 30 or 40 quite substantial beer companies dotted around the globe, and there's been almost this race for the moon, if you like, 1960s parlance, where AB InBev was bigger than SAB, SAB was bigger than AB InBev, and there was this jockeying for position. And now the merger of the two biggest brewing companies in the world. It's actually quite an extraordinary achievement.
Well, that's right, and that's why I'm saying that being here is almost like a gift, right? Having the opportunity to live in that moment. And much more than this, is like an opportunity to relearn about your business, because you're used to do things in a certain way, and your company developed a certain way of doing things, and then you have the opportunity to get to a company which was doing exactly, the same thing, but with different processes and models, and now being possible to see what works best. It's a great privilege.
The MBA textbooks will tell you that most mergers and acquisitions fail at some point. Time Warner, there are multiple case studies, and you would have done them as you did your executive management training in the United States as well, I'm sure. What's going to make this one succeed?
Well, I think that first, the companies were very similar in the sense that they had a great ambition for growth. So we have very competitive people, passionate people about their brands, about the countries where we operate, and I think this is the main element that make things work. We are now in the same boat. I think that people from both companies, they respect a lot which each other built in the past, and again, I think we have this healthy curiosity and the open minds to learn and recognize when we see something that is better than we used to do. So, Brito, which is our global CEO, we were talking about this combination, and he talked to the whole team for the first time, the combined team, and he said that one of the greatest things about this combination is about the intellectual synergies. The fact that it's not only, a business that's being acquired or something like that, but new ways of doing and learning things that can improve your own business. This is more or less priceless.
Have you participated in mergers before? Individually, have you overseen
the Mexico
a big merger?
Grupo Modelo. Yes.
Okay, so Grupo Modelo, which was bought by AB InBev, how long ago was that?
2013.
2013.
Yes.
Okay, so you've come through that, you've bedded that down. Your job now is to bed down this particular merger. We've seen around the globe how AB InBev and SAB have been forced to get rid of brands so that there aren't those big clashes. So CR Snow in China is gone. Foster's, also quite a recent deal for SABMiller, had to go as well. So many of these great global brands have gone. The deal doesn't seem as big.
No, actually it was Miller, Peroni, and Grolsch. The Australian business, we had a very small presence there. So
Miller's gone, Peroni is gone, and Grolsch.
Yes. Yes, but that was the opportunity, and we had to do what was necessary to have the deal
regulators
approved. Yes.
How do you feel about the fact that Miller's going to be brewed by Heineken just down the road at Sedi Beng? Do they have the scale to make life difficult for Budweiser?
I think that all competitors, have to be first respected. Everybody who works, especially in the consumer goods, has to know that we never have our business for granted. We have to conquer our consumer every day. I mean, every day that our sales rep goes to the street, he starts with 0 sales. So we have to develop and make our brands worthy to consumers every day. I think that the good thing, and just thinking one benefit, is that we are preserving brands that were available in the market. We are bringing new brands. So in the end, will be more availability and to consumers, more choices.
It may be my imagination. I'm seeing a bit more Stella around. I don't know if that's deliberate or if that's just I'm noticing it more now. I'm not, fortunately, and that's just personal taste, seeing much Budweiser. But is the flood coming?
We know that we have 3 global brands, right? So Budweiser is, I mean, the #1 brand in the world in terms of value right now. We have Stella Artois, we have Corona, which is the fastest growing international brand. So I think this is part of our global strategy. And of course, I believe they have different personalities, different functionalities, and I think they can have a part in the South African market.
So when do we see the rollouts of these? Because Corona was really big here toward the end of the 1990s, very trendy, very hip, and kind of lost its flavour, perhaps because SABMiller was so good at marketing against it. It's an opportunity now to reintroduce Corona more seriously, reintroduce Budweiser, which has never been sold here, more seriously, and to up the presence of Stella.
No, definitely. I mean, Corona just had the Corona Sunset, so which is one of the flagship events for Corona we had here in Johannesburg. I mean, every time we do a good event with Corona, we have everything sold out in a few days. We see that people are very excited of having this brand, of tasting this brand. We are seeing the awareness of the brand growing on a monthly basis. So I mean, these are just exciting opportunities that we have.
It's such a different philosophy, though, to the philosophy of Graham Mackay. I don't know if you ever met Graham Mackay, legendary chief executive who, with Maya Khan, took SAB global. His view was beer is a local drink. Brands are local. Your philosophy is different. You talk about global brands in terms of beer, because I don't think SAB had global brands per se.
I think there were more international brands, but actually the philosophy is not different per se. If you analyze every market around the world, the leader brands, the most important brands in each market, they are local. So that would be for the most important markets in general. So it's not that there's a change in it, but sometimes when you look after growth, you have to look at different segments. So for example, one thing that we've been doing very successfully here is like launching a brand like Flying Fish, which does very well. So this is a segment of the market.
Flying Fish is the flavored beer. It's looking to sort of get into new markets for beer drinking. Traditionally, beer drinking is male. It's 18 to 35. In South Africa, 18 to 105. But the clear beer market is generally male dominated, and it's in South Africa. Carling Black Label is huge. Castle is big. Castle Light has been remarkably successful. You don't want to undermine those brand positions.
Definitely, yes. How they are the business we have, right?
Yeah. How do you come in with new offerings without undermining those very dominant positions that exist already?
No, but that's the nice thing. I mean, if you analyze our per capita consumption here versus other countries, like even Latin American countries, I mean, we could grow like 25% in that market just by a per capita comparison. But then you have to understand what are the things that we can do here to get there in a responsible manner as well. So, of course, our more important brands will always be the bulk of our volume, and they represent and they're part of the local culture, and that will be always respected. But for example, Castle Light is a brand that it's more recent in the market than the mother brand, which is Castle, and it's performing very well. And I think that it's part of a trend of people looking more about moderation, about refreshment, about going for an easy to drink brand, and this is our trend. But of course, you have your more conservative consumers or your more traditionalist consumers. They are going to more traditional brands. And the thing is, we know that people are different, and one of our jobs is identifying how people are divided in subgroups. They have different
What's your
preferences.
attitude towards craft? I mean, SAB has always been very polite about craft and been very supportive publicly about craft, and we've got something like 150 craft brewers in South Africa. Not huge volumes, but they're in a market segment which you'd like a piece of as well, I'm sure.
No, definitely, and we are already here. We have our Rivalries, we have our Newland Springs Brewery. And I think that we want to keep that good relationship. I do believe that for beer, for our category in general, our industry, is important that we offer variety for consumers, and that we are seen as a versatile category that can be in a meal, that can be in an evening dinner, that can be offered in a marriage celebration, and you can drink in your bride.
What do you see as your biggest rival in South Africa? Is it a particular line of drinks? Is it a particular company? Is it particular brands? Who are your big rivals?
I mean, I think that we have competition from big companies that are here. To be quite honest, myself personally, I never focus too much on competitors. I focus much more on consumers. And
but it feels like you're going for the wine market. I mean, you're talking about how you want to inculcate beer more into celebrations and things, and especially in tough economies when, you know, litre for litre, beer is a considerably less price sensitive drink.
It's just as I think everything is an opportunity. I think that everybody who is in charge of a business has to think where are the segments which your products are playing in today, your brands, and where they are not, and eventually you find something to be playing that game. I think this is something natural for every company. I think that the basic thing is that when you think about Africa in the context of AB InBev, globally speaking, Africa and South Africa included, we expect it to be a driver of growth. So we'll be thinking a lot on how can we grow our business here.
Tell you what, next time, because I'm going to get you back, I want to talk about Africa, because the African continent is a really interesting beer market. SABMiller, of course, had the chance of first refusal with Castel, family-owned brewery across the African continent, growing synergistically across this continent. What does Ricardo Tadeu think about the opportunities presented by the African continent? It's one of the main reasons the deal was done, AB InBev buying SABMiller. You get a good sense of where the president of Africa at AB InBev and SAB, where his head is in terms of local operations. Next time, we'll go Pan-African as we look at the AB InBev growth story. That's next time on the Moneymakers. Good night.